Good day everyone, Leo Chase from Mythmaster here with my review of Scream 2, and as you can probably tell from the title, I loved it. This won't be the most typical review, but for this I'll basically be telling you my thought process of narrowing down the suspect list, which is extensive, as well as pointing out various references to the first movie, of which there are several. There will be spoilers from here on out, so if you haven't watched the movie, I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of slashers, or just really want to watch this video. Scream 2 starts at a cinema where Phil Stevens and his girlfriend Maureen Evans are murdered at a showing of Stab, a movie based on the events of Scream 1. It's a bit over the top, but not entirely out of the realm of possibility. As the movie gets going, we are introduced and reintroduced to many people, and as stated by Randy in the first movie, everyone's a suspect. The suspect list here includes Gail Weathers, Dewey Riley, Randy Meeks, Sydney's boyfriend Derek, his best friend Mickey, who's in the same film class as Randy, Sydney's best friend Hallie, Gail's new cameraman Joel, reporter Debbie Salt, and the recently released Cotton Weary. Plus, there are two slightly creepy sorority sisters, but they are basically eliminated from the list after the next murder, which is of the film student Cece, and is the scene in this movie most reminiscent of the first one. The image on the screen is the suspect list, and the gaps are a result of suspects who are removed or added as the film goes on. At the end, I'll show you the full list. But back to the third murder of the movie, it involves a blonde girl named Casey, who thinks she's alone in the house, who's watching a black and white scary movie, and gets repeatedly called by Ghostface, and when she's attacked, she runs upstairs. The phone call and setup are reminiscent of the opening of the first movie, the movie linking to Randy watching Halloween in the previous installment, and Sydney saying how the victims always run up the stairs. But what this murder tells us about Ghostface is that there are at least two people in on it, as while Cece is on the phone, we see a Ghostface who's not on the phone run past in the background. From how the next few scenes are cut and such, as I said earlier, this basically eliminates the sorority sisters as a duo, and shows Sydney wasn't the killer as she was talking to them. Many of the other characters enter the scene, including the very late Derek and his friend Mickey, plus Hallie seems to step in from out of frame. At this time and for most of the movie, my main theory was that Ghostface was going to be revealed to be Hallie and Mickey working together, though I wasn't sure why, with Derek and Cotton being red herrings. This was enhanced at Randy's death as the person on the phone with him, who then killed him, seemed to have knowledge only someone from the film class would know, raising my suspicion of Mickey and introducing the film teacher into the picture. Plus, this eliminated Dewey and Gail as a duo, though Joel leaving just before all of this happened was a bit suspicious. Another character high on my suspicion list was the reporter Debbie Salt, as she seemed to just keep on popping up. I thought that if she was involved, she would be doing it to try and gain news coverage, with the intention of writing a book about it just like Gail had. And I thought that she might be in collusion with Cotton if he did end up being one of the killers. But my suspicions of Debbie decreased after Gail shouted at her when Joel left, and at that point I kind of decided that Debbie was just there as a foil to Gail. Plus, at that point, I had removed Cotton from the suspect list, and decided that, like Derek, he was a red herring for Sydney and the rest of the cast. With the attack on Gail and Dewey, my suspicions of Joel, Mickey, and the film teacher rose, and for a second Sydney entered the picture, as she wasn't present, and I thought it was quite a pivotal scene, as well as not realising that there was like over half an hour left in the movie. But then I decided that Sydney would never kill Randy or attack Dewey, so she dropped off the list pretty quickly. With Hallie, she seemed very insistent on going wherever Sydney went, and when they were in the car crash, Hallie telling Sydney not to remove Ghostface's mask seemed extremely suspicious to me. And when Hallie was stabbed, I thought it was a bluff, just like with Billy in the first one. Mickey being revealed as Ghostface was no surprise, and I thought that his motivation was done very well, / made sense, and he seemed quite reminiscent of Stu from the first movie. For a moment I was tricked by the Derek thing, as I thought they might actually do a double bluff and have Derek actually be one of the killers, but that was disproven. I wasn't as taken when Gail stepped through the door, and was expecting someone to come through after her, but I was expecting it to be Hallie. I was pleasantly surprised when it was revealed to be Debbie Salt, but the icing on the cake was what is probably the best twist in either film, which is that Debbie Salt is actually Billy Loomis's mother. In hindsight, there was some foreshadowing throughout the movie, such as Pamela Voorhees, the mother of Jason Voorhees, being the killer in Friday the 13th being mentioned, but at the time I thought that was just a reference to the opening of the first movie. Plus, Mrs. Loomis being the Billy 2 Mickey stew is great, and just the symmetry to and subversion of the first movie, as well as all of the characters developing in a logical way, is why I think that this is one of the best sequels of all time, at least in terms of horror movies, though as mentioned in Scream 2, Aliens is a great horror movie sequel as well. This leads me to talking about my favourite parts of the movie. I think the best death sequence is probably Cece's because of how much it references the first movie, after the opening sequence being very public, compared to the relatively subtle kills of movie number 1. My favourite non-Ghostface scene is the coffee shop scene with Dewey and Randy, where both of Randy's iconic parts from the first movie, the Everyone's a Suspect and horror movie rules scene, are referenced and redone for the context of the sequel. The best twist is obviously the Mrs. Loomis one, but I think the best callback to Scream is when Gail and Sydney are standing over Mrs. Loomis, and Sydney's going to shoot her to make sure she's dead, and then Mickey suddenly pops up and they shoot him, and then Mrs. Loomis to make sure. I didn't expect Gail to be dead when she fell, but I was surprised to see that once again Dewey survived, as I was not expecting that to be the case, but I don't think it harms the story, and I'm glad that he survived because I like Dewey. Randy was one of my favourite characters from the first movie, but I feel his death was necessary for this movie, and like one of the legacy characters had to die, and he was done well. Oh, and here's the complete suspect list, from Sydney to the sorority sisters. From what I've said, it may seem like this movie is only good because of the references to the first one, but it's more that it builds on the first movie, and as I said, is a perfect continuation to the franchise. I have a bit less hope for the other 4, soon to be 5, movies, but we'll watch them anyway, as now I have all of them on DVD, having bought a 6-movie box set. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd like to take this time to shout out my other channel, which, at the time of writing this, has 5 subscribers and 1 video. It is called Marvel Master, and should be linked in the description. I would also recommend subscribing to this channel if you love all things movies, and would recommend checking out my Scream playlist. Have a good day, and ta-ta.